What up and welcome to Rama Screen YouTube channel, and here's my review of Netflix new limited series, Aema. Let's rock this. Okay, so this show is a fictional historical depiction that basically imagines the behind-the-scenes production of that 1980 South Korean erotic thriller Madam Aema, which I've never seen by the way, but I heard that it was a box office hit of that era. Kind of like the Emmanuel franchise starring the late great Sylvia Kristel. Don't ask me how I know that one. If I were to use one adjective to describe Aema, that adjective would be amusing. Because this show is not necessarily rolling on the floor hysterical. It's sort of more like a dark comedy, so it has its dramatic moments, but the humor lies in the outrageous, exaggerated situations that might throw you off a bit at times because it blurs the lines between disturbing and satirical, since there's this constant tug of war between feminism and misogyny due to its pastime setting. So, do I like this miniseries Aema? My answer would be yes and no. On the one hand, it's a fascinating love letter to cinema from the perspective of South Korean film industry. On the other hand, oftentimes the narrative kinda goes off on a tangent, where it loses your interest before it steers itself back on track. There are so many moving components, some of which are more distracting than others, but whenever the focus zones in on the two leading women, that's when the story is at its most engaging point. Aema is a Netflix series about A-list actress Hee-ran and newcomer Ju fearlessly confronting the dark, harsh realities hidden behind the spotlight amid the production of an erotic film that shook up the Korean film industry in the 1980s. In the male-dominated world of 1980s Korean cinema, these two women with clashing personalities are united by a shared struggle against the industry's exploitative nature. There's a total of 6 episodes, each runs about an hour long, because of course, most Korean dramas have to take up the entire hour just to tell a story that could have been a tiny bit more straightforward, and Aema is no different. As I said earlier, the two leads or the two women are riveting. Everything else and many of the supporting characters are just noise, sometimes literally because they would go into shouting matches in high decibels, which goes to my point earlier about exaggerations. Is this show essentially anti-male or anti-man? Yeah, you can say that. Should you be offended by that? No, I don't think so. At least it didn't bother me. The director character seems to be the empathetic one, while the rest of the male supporting characters, especially the sleazebag producer, come across as over-the-top douchebags. But again, it's part of the humor. That's not really ha-ha funny, but it's just interesting to see how comically and cartoonishly evil their sexist behavior can get, which kind of makes you cheer for the ladies even more since they are both feisty in their own way. The cinematography at times can also be vibrant and dynamic, especially the fight that I believe happens at the end of episode 4. Some of the episodes get pretty dark too, like when the newcomer actress is exposed to the belly of the underworld, but that is what leads to the heart of the show, which is, can these two ladies set aside their rivalries and find solidarity despite their ambitions and their generational divide? And the show has a very measured and very gradual way of getting to that realization. Okay, the retro setting has a very good attention to details, the dialogues are fluid and razor sharp, the character development is layered, and the other amusing point of comedy exists in how the production approaches the sex scenes, which turns out to be more complicated than they expected. The performances of the two leading ladies are impressive. Bang Hyo-rin, who plays the newcomer Shin Ju-wei, is fierce and compelling. There's this constant struggle within her character, having to decide when she's willing to give an inch and when to actually stand her ground. And Bang embodies those nuances perfectly. And Lee Han-hee, as the established star Jung Hee-ran, is so deliciously arrogant. She may appear like an antagonist, but there's an underlying tragedy about her character that makes us kind of understand where she's coming from. Lee Honey is delightfully magnetic. So yeah, overall I give Aema the rating of 3.5 out of 5. It has its shortcomings, which I've mentioned to you, but for the most part, this is a captivating dramedy that tackles gender politics and female empowerment.